If you're an aspiring grower, this is actually going to be a really good video to kind of figure out the path that you're looking to go on with a plant journey. Are you looking to grow native plants, help out with the environment, or are you growing stuff for yourself? Because container gardening is a really great option. Not only is it a conservation method for me, it's also a great way to study plants. So stay tuned for the video and you can kind of see the advantages and disadvantages of that.
Hey, before we get into the actual thick of this video, I had some problems with the audio with it. I didn't use a microphone this time. I'm just not liking the microphone I have, so if you could, I would really appreciate some microphone suggestions, lavaliers that I could just clip onto my shirt. It'd be really helpful to have a better idea. I just got the cheapest ones I could find. They were on sale. And they had decent reviews, but if you have any better suggestions, I'd really like to hear them because I need a better one.
Probably familiar with me being a pretty big proponent of container gardening. And container gardening is really great for a couple of reasons. It has a lot of advantages that in-ground gardening really doesn't. These are mostly related to how I actually study the plants that I grow, specifically the Lamiaceae, Lamiales plants. Now, the first reason that you should grow native plants in containers, and really any plants in containers, but especially the native ones, is you can really utilize a lot more of your property and your land. Now, this is actually a really great example space for that because there's upwards of 15 native plants, and I think actually more if we count the ones that are in ground, like the dogwood above me, or any of the Prunella vulgaris that grow up in here. But it's also a great option for dead zones, as I like to call them. So like concrete pads, like patios, even steps, which is where I would normally keep something like my purple lycopus. Prunella vulgaris, that kind of brings me into my next point, which is you can kind of control the spread of native and non-native plants, because obviously I do utilize containers as a control method for non-native plants like my Arjucas, or some of my houseplants even can actually escape during the summer. Which also plays a factor in my next point, which is these containers are actually very movable, so you can move them around with you if you're on the go a lot and you're changing your location, or things like bad weather events. So if like a hurricane's moving through, you can maybe throw them in your house rather than have them try and outlast a storm, or a tornado's blowing through, you can bring them in the house or throw them in your garden. Just all sorts of things. Now obviously you want to do that safely and way beforehand, but that is part of the reason that it's good to grow in containers is, hey, you have this plant, you're not sure how it grows, kind of take that and put it somewhere, see how it does there, and like if it was full sun, see how it would do in the full sun. If it doesn't do well, move it into some shade. But that does bring us into our disadvantages. There's just as many disadvantages as there is two advantages. Really, as I would like to reiterate, the way I study these plants and what I study them for, and to see how they do, really plays a big part in why I grow in containers. But I also do grow outside of containers, which is why I can kind of compare and contrast how different plants do. But you can also kind of think of this as like my native herb garden. I guess that's how I refer to it a lot of the time. But I have fruits in here with my physalis, but mostly I do try and stick to herbs for studying, not necessarily for use other than with these pycnanthemums here, or the physalis. I will chew on the physalis occasionally. Now when you compare it to in-ground, it's really just a matter of, are you trying to study these plants? Do you have the space to have these plants and have them in soil in a more garden-like setting? Or are you just kind of trying to study every aspect of a plant, make more of that plant? Or are you keeping it around just to use, really? Is it more of an herb to you, a fruit, something like that? Versus, is it more for your enjoyment, your study, the wildlife that you're trying to encourage despite not having? the space to do it. And that's why this can actually be a very appealing option. Plants in containers, especially native plants in containers, just opens up a lot more opportunities to integrate native plants and kind of study and benefit the world around you. So I would highly recommend getting a couple of native plants in containers, or putting some in the garden if you really want to. But if you're in a small area, I mean, this is just like a 10 by 10 area roughly, like I said, and there's like 15, 16 native plants in here. And some of them aren't even native, but you know, I kind of have them off the screen. But there's really no reason that you should avoid getting native plants, especially when it's so easy to just pop them in a container, water them 2-3 times a week, and that'll just really encourage a lot of the wildlife to come into your area and just give you something to look forward to, something to look at. And I would just highly, highly recommend it to anyone starting to garden, or even experienced gardeners. Maybe you never thought, hey, that's actually a great idea. I can just pop a cool plant, a cool native plant right on my patio, have cool flowers, see cool pollinators, and just, I would really like to say, do that. It is great. So I'd like to thank you for watching this far into the video, and I'd really like to encourage you to let me know if this was helpful content to you, or any suggestions that you might have, or even other YouTubers that you would recommend for others to go and watch to learn about container gardening, because I really never watched container gardening videos. This is just something I kind of started doing because I was really into mint, and you gotta have mint in a container. Well, actually, a lot of the native plants grow just like mint, at least in Lamiaceae, you know, the plants I study. So if there's any information that you think other viewers might find helpful, just drop it in a comment. It would be really useful. And let me know about any content that you'd like to know about. I'm definitely going to be making something about how to divide some of these perennials, and replenishing these pots, and breaking up root binding issues. But there's just a lot of stuff to do, and I'm trying to do all that. I'm working a full-time job that's going to lay me off in January. It's going to be cold, I can't make content then, so I'm just trying to really work a lot, work on my YouTube a lot, and kind of just keep the money rolling in until everything settles down for a bit. So again, thank you for watching. Interacting with the video really helps, liking the video, and actually the longer that you watch the video, that drives up more viewership rates, because YouTube's trying to keep you on the platform. So just really, really thank you for watching. It's super helpful to me, and I really appreciate you.